the visitors in there, they could get out as well. So it's around that really. Rachel.
Yeah, so the registrars need to be in a closed room that nobody else can walk through. And obviously with the nature of the Guildhall, the only room that can really be closed off is the banqueting hall, which is used for the weddings. So we have to close off the rest of the building to enable the registrars to meet and go through that legal process. We try to limit the closing as much as possible. So for example, if we have a wedding at 1:30, we don't close until midday. But obviously there's been a drive in recent years to be a bit more commercial and bring some income into the venue, and weddings is a really key way of doing that. I would also say we do work closely with Fidel House. They have weddings themselves, so they're also a wedding venue, but we do work in partnership with them on events and sharing use of the space. And quite often, if we've got a wedding at the Guildhall, they go into the Fidel House Gardens afterwards, so we do work closely with them.
I would point out that there are plenty of closed off rooms in the Fidel House that perhaps could be used for that specific purpose, if that's the main reason. I think more thought needs to be given to this personally. Now, the next point that I want to raise is that there's no mention in the report of the part the Guildhall play in our £100 million visitor economy for the area. I'm sure it would help if the officers had some focus on this priority issue for the borough and the council. What part does and could the Guildhall play in generating this important part of the local economy? There's great scope for increasing it, and I feel that the Guildhall could be at the centre of the drive to increase it to the benefit of the whole population. And I think there's a lot of scope for the Guildhall staff to be much more proactive in expanding the visitor economy.
Thank you. The tourism is now a separate entity to the Guildhall. That now Luke's part has now gone, and Jeffrey and indeed Katie are now part of the tourism team. I think the Guildhall is working very hard with its limited budget and limited staff that it has at the moment to drive that improvement. In fact, when they came and did Historic England came and did the report on the Guildhall this year, it had actually gone up to 82% from 80%. And actually within that report, it's really lovely to see that the staff got an outstanding, and the person did quote outstanding 95% for the welcome, their knowledge and everything else. So I do think the staff are working very, very hard within the limits that they have to improve that. And it's on Visit England as a place to visit. So I do think the Guildhall is the centre of the visitor economy, most definitely. And with the budgets we have, they're working very, very hard.
I realise there are problems, but I do feel sometimes that that the team could have a lot more focus on the big picture and the visitor economy. And there's nothing in this report that indicates that, and I would love to see something in this report about that.
Thank you. If I could just come in on that, just to say that we are also part of a cultural quarter group, which consists of the Guildhall, Fidel House, Blackfriars and St Botolph's, and we meet monthly to kind of talk about shared events and shared activities to promote Boston as a town, and to visitors, as well as running activities for residents. So we are working within the town to promote us as a visitor destination. But I acknowledge what you say about the report, and we can look at adding some bit in on that.
Certainly hope in future reports that there's much more emphasis on this, please. Now, the next thing is pride of place and well-being. Now, this is briefly mentioned in paragraph 9 of the action plan. It's a government priority. And I think the Guildhall has an important role to play in this. and making sure that all the population know of our rich heritage and feel good about the place. And it's very important that everybody in Boston feels good about the place, to offset this negative stuff you get on social media, etc. So I think the the Guildhall staff can help with this. And again, I think on future reports, and even if this report can be modified to mention a little bit more about pride of place and well-being, I think that is something that it ought to be perhaps included as one of the themes. I'll leave that point open. Continue. Now, my next point is there is no clear and detailed plan in the report to increase day-to-day footfall by staging a variety of exhibits celebrating our rich heritage. The general impression, public impression of the Guildhall, in my view, is that it's always the same, so we do not need a second visit. You do sort of mention it in passing, but more emphasis about variety, and we've got lots of stories to tell, and very few of them are being told in the Guildhall at the moment, and that really ought to change.
Beneath, or sort of above the action plan, we have a development plan which goes into a lot more detail. So the actions within the exhibition and event programming really kind of covers that. It is our ambition to have more changing exhibitions, to utilise our collections more, and when we're back up to full staff, that's definitely something that we want to develop. It will also happen through the MPO. Stories will be a really key part of inspiring all of the creative activities that happen through the MPO delivery. And certainly in the build up to Boston 400, the Guildhall is going to be a key part of that. And we started that this previous weekend with the Boston Tea Party event, celebrating the 200th, or marking the 250th anniversary of the Boston Tea Party.
Well, thank you for that. Can I carry on, Madam Chairman? Now, one way to have the Guildhall open 6 or 7 days a week would be to recruit volunteers to support the regular staff. The Stump, Fidle, the House, Blackfriars all have lots of volunteers. Why aren't we being more proactive in this sphere?
I think whilst volunteers are absolutely great, and it's a wonderful service that they do, we've got to be mindful that with the staffing structure we can afford at the moment, and we've got at the moment, they would need a volunteer manager, and the staff are absolutely stretched at the moment and haven't got the capacity to take that on. As well as that, they'd need fire warden training, first aid training, they'd need IT training, so much training to take place. And again, having that resource to actually get that up and running were very, very difficult.
Right, Madam Chairman, that brings me on to my next point. Now, in this report, there is no breakdown of the £230,000 budget. Phil Perry has now kindly supplied me with one. And looking at those figures, I estimate that if the Guildhall was closed, if we didn't have responsibility for it, this council would only save about £200,000 a year. Now, that is a very small sum to promote one of the major parts of our local economy, and it's one of our major corporate priorities. Compared with our budget, it's a very small sum. Now, in view of the high priority to increase our visitor economy, I I ask quite earnestly, why shouldn't we have a higher budget allocated to ensure this happens?
Thank you. I mean, I would love that too. So, I mean, thank you, Councillor Austin. Thank you for your care about the Guildhall and wanting it to succeed, because me and you are singing from the same sheet about that. It really is so important. And my vision with this portfolio is the same as you. I want more people to be proud of where they're from. I want more children to know the stories about where they are from, and the Guildhall really is such a key to that. So yes, here's hoping.
Thank you, Councillor Austin. Councillor Staples.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I think, to be fair, Councillor Sharp has only been in post since May, and Rome wasn't built in a day. And I think she's really making great strides to see things happen. And we had the Boston Tea Party on Saturday, which sadly I wasn't able to attend, and things will happen, but she has a limited budget. Councillor Austin, with greatest respect to you, you held the cultural portfolio for a number of years. You know, what happened then? That's my question. Quite frankly, I think you're being a little bit unjust to Councillor Sharp. She's working all hours there are to try and improve things, and you can't do it overnight. It takes time. And with regard to the Guildhall for weddings, I'm very pro weddings happening at the Guildhall. I think it's a beautiful place for people to have a civil ceremony. And it also gets guests in. They see the Guildhall. It makes them want to come back. I have been to a wedding there. In fact, I was matron of honour for a friend there, and I was so impressed with the staff that were on that day. They were prepared to talk to guests, and there were people showing genuine interest. So from small things, bigger things happen. So I think weddings are very important and crucial to the Guildhall. It's a beautiful place for people to be married in. And obviously the legality is that the old council chamber is used for the bridegroom to go in pre the ceremony, and for the bride pre the ceremony to go through the legal process, which has to happen when somebody's married. So, that's what I've got to say about it. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yeah.
Just to come back on it, I was actually I held a portfolio for about 2 years, and as you know, we managed to land this big Arts Council grant and various other things. I agree, Rome wasn't made in a day, and I'm trying to be entirely constructive about the future. But there's a lot of potential here that we've got to work on, but it's not easy. I'm the first to say that.
Bill, do you want to come in?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just think it's worth noting as well, when we talk about the budget, it's the museum, arts and culture budget. It goes not beyond just the museum and the Guildhall itself. And I think it's important to remember that actually the work that the team have been involved with over time has involved all the wayfinding in the town centre. In fact, the whole council brand is based on work undertaken through that, through their delivery of that town centre wayfinding project. The town centre was decluttered. Even you look at the Boston Boys, all the different arts projects they've gone through, a lot of this has been involved. This is all part of this work. The report itself focuses on the Guildhall itself and trying to work forward with the resources coming through, hopefully through the MPO, that we can really utilise to deliver it is a combined arts programme. And on the back of that, as we do in Boston, we use heritage as a mechanism of drawing people in, and that has worked very effectively in previous projects we've been involved with. So this is looking at the Guildhall now. We're trying to move that forward. We're trying to look at exhibition. We're trying to look at a number of ways of increasing footfall. There's a lot of work that goes into developing the tourism offer in the town, and the Backwest report from Visit England is a very clear example of how good the Guildhall's been in over the years, and as reported, increasing its score due to the actual staff and the impact of the staff in there from a mystery visit, phone calls, and the professionalism that goes forward. I mean, the staffing is not great. When we talk about numbers of people, majority of staff there are part-time. So, you know, it's only 2.5 FTE sort of that actually operate that we have to do all this work. So I think they are doing a great job. What the opportunity is going forward with the MPO is to hopefully bring in additional resource and additional staff and projects and working with other people to actually generate more activity. That could hopefully mean that we end up with the Guildhall with additional hours to be able to open for other activities that will be going forward. That will actually benefit the borough because there will be workshops from the Guildhall will end up with art forms being delivered across the borough. Yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Danny.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I can assure you, Councillor Sharp, I will support you for whatever you pursue, because it's a way of dealing with things. And I do agree with Councillor Staples that in the previous years, much was happening. We had the same issue. For me, my concern, and to be honest with you, a lot of people, when they come to town, you try to give this positive, you know, way, or you compliment your town nicely, and you advise them to go to the Guildhall, but they come back and say, well, it's closed. That's very sad. I will hope that we can take it forward and probably have it more open more often, even Sundays if we can, because in the end of the day, we talk here about point A, which is sustainability and improving financial resilience, and at the same time marketing. You cannot market some place if it's closed during the week, because people, they will come, they will be disappointed, and then, you know, it will be a negative vibe and negative feedback to other people. We went there, it was closed. However, as I say, I will support you, and I think it's a good place if we take it forward and make it sort of probably a business hub where we can turn, we have a turnover of some money coming in and being self-sustained in the future, because then we will not have that burden of £230,000 as budget for it, but it will budget itself. That's one thing. One question I have for you, can you tell me how much does it cost us to run the Guildhall on a yearly basis?
I'll have to hand over to Phil for that one.
Sorry, thank you much. Yeah, in the report, it's down. It's 200 when. The budget is, well, I have to explain to Councillor Austin in there, it's actually down, is a total, this includes notional costs for the budget this year is 342,904, 342, but 66,261 is amortization of intangible assets, and 47,329 is depreciation of assets. Now, this will be adjusted at the end of the year, so it will come down to in the region of 200 and, well, last year the outturn was £237,535. Last year was, yeah, was, and that includes the depreciation at £85,632. It is not a large budget in terms of when you look at the total. And remember, as I said, this is museum, arts and culture budget.
Thank you very much. Just one of the ideas that probably we can, if we can do that, is, you know, because everything now is going digital. A lot of people, you know, they rely on their phones, found in places, you know, they have the Google. Have we got any page regarding the town's assets or whatever historic places in Boston where people can find it very easy for them? If they are in Boston, they can just put like Boston historic places and then go through that.
I think on the Boston website there is a part on there that just say historic cultural venues, which, and then that will show you Vidal House, it'll show you Guildhall, the Stump, and all of that as well. Yeah.
Thank you, Madam Chairman.
And as well, Councillor Danny, there's also the monoliths in town as well, which direct you around the town and take you to a number of venues.
So how easy is to access it for somebody who's not from Boston? Is it easy to access this website?
Yeah, in terms of websites, yes, you can put in the to visit Boston, but also when you're in the town, there's actually the monoliths that will take you around the town, literally dotted around the town centre, and is in one at the station should you come in by train. So it'll help guide you through the town and detail what venues we have. It maps it and takes you forward. But on the website as well, you can also find additional information. It's not all about the Guildhall, because you've got, especially with the stump and Fidel House, other attractions within the in the town, even things like the windmill and everything as well. So the mill, so it's all there that people can follow around quite easily.
I've just come back as well. So part of my other hat is the tourism, it's part of my portfolio as well. So we haven't got very much literature about Boston at all. So we are looking at developing, again, we've got a very small budget, but a trifold leaflet. And within that, I'd like a QR code on it. And this will be at the train station, it'll be in the Guildhall, it'll be in St Botolph's, and hopefully in cafes and things as well, but with a QR code so that it's constantly linking to the website.
Think negative, Councillor. It's just I went abroad and I tried to find some memorial things or souvenirs from Boston. And it was very hard to find anything. The Guildhall was closed. I had to go to the Stump. The Stump didn't have much really going on, so it was difficult. I had to go to the libraries and try to find out things as a gift for other people who, because I visit another country and we're working certain things. I will come back to that. And it was very difficult to find something just about Boston and the historic Boston and what we do and the port all together and what's happening. So it was difficult for me. I managed to find something, but it was very difficult. I will hope that we see something which is bringing everything together. Thank you.
Councillor Gilbert.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty interesting just listening to the discussion, to be honest with you, because it makes you, trigger so many thoughts. One thing I wrote down was that did I hear someone say there's a £100 million visitor economy in Boston? 100 million.
Yes. Yeah, that's the official figure.
Yeah, I mean that's
it's gone up by 5 million in the last 12 months apparently.
Really, that's amazing, because you wouldn't think that when you walk around the town centre. I don't think. So I mean, I just love to know where those numbers come from. But anyway, that was one point. Another point I wanted to make in relation to Councillor Sharp's sad observations really about volunteering. It's no wonder civil society is in retreat when so many hoops have got to be jumped through for someone just to turn up and actually provide a very straightforward and fairly simple public service. But I take on board everything you said. I mean, having worked as a volunteer myself in a number of organisations, it really is a nightmare having to go through all the various training pathways that you've got to complete before you can become a volunteer. Maybe somewhere needs to look at that, not necessarily us. But my main point was it links to just what Councillor Danny has just said, and that's about the narrative, Boston's narrative. Boston has a rich heritage, but when you explore that heritage, it's all over the place. It's over here, it's over there. We've got three fundamentally significant buildings in Boston. We have the Guildhall, the Stump, and Fidel House. All three of them have got connections in terms of the development of Western thought, from Thomas Cromwell, Henry VIII's fixer, all the way through to John Cotton and to Joseph Banks and other people. And I think what we need to try and do is weave Boston's story around this idea that Boston plays a significant part in the development of Western thinking, in the freedoms that the West enjoys. Because from my little bits of research that I've done, Boston probably there probably isn't anywhere as historically significant as a town, which is the size of Boston, anywhere else in the country. And I think we should be really proud of the footprint we've left all around the planet. But that footprint is very much about the freedoms that are enjoyed in the world as a result of the pioneers that left here or contributed towards the development of Western thought elsewhere in this country. So that narrative really needs to sort of be woven into a sort of single story, and that single story needs to be about the development of Western thinking, Western ideas, Western freedoms, Western democracy. And I think if we can do that, then we'll have people who value those freedoms, who value that democracy, who value Western values, beating a path to our door. Maybe we'll genuinely have a £100 million visitor economy at that point.
Thank you.
I don't think we've got one now.
That the figures come from something called STEAM data, which is a contract that the council have paid into and look at all different manner of things. And apparently it's something that's used countrywide. So I did question it when it kind of came through, but apparently it's industry standard for measuring. As for the weaving, that's a story. Absolutely, I couldn't agree more. And I'm hopeful actually that with the NPO, that's something, because it's all about those stories, that golden thread, and we can really bring that forward. So yes, definitely, thank you, and I'll put that through to the NPO.
Councillor Austin.
Thank you for allowing me to come back. The one thing that again isn't mentioned in the report is anything about the fact that it's the Tourist Information Centre. So that's I needed to. I wonder why that's. How have we forgotten about tourist information centres in this day and age? But perhaps more important, I think, listening to this debate, it does occur to me we desperately want an officer who is focused on the visitor economy and tourism. We've got this town needs it urgently, and that would be a positive thing to get forward. I don't think the politicians in the town have really focused on the visitor economy enough, and that's why the budget's just gone lower and lower and lower. They say nice words about it, but it needs urgently backing up with hard cash. Let's have an officer focused on this, and then we might get somewhere.
I am delighted to say that we had Geoffrey Kenyon join the partnership in March, and he does work across the three partnerships, but he has a wealth of knowledge and experience and is already putting a lot of things in place. And then in September we had Katie Edwards join us. She's a place officer just for Boston, and so she's the one who's starting to develop the leaflet, and she's really working hard as well. So hopefully, if we can now get a budget, we'll be able to do great things.
Councillor Welbury.
Just a basic question, really. What are your visitor numbers? I like, say, average on a Saturday.
I'm not overly sure about each numbers on each Saturday. We do have something called hook data as well, and that measures how many measures the mobile phones. But I can definitely get that back to you on the numbers. I'll have a word with Geoffrey for that.
You've got no idea at all then how many visitors pass through during the week, just roughly? Maybe Rachel, you know? I don't know what we're trying to build on, you see. I'm trying to get to a base level of who actually interacts with the Guildhall at the moment.
Yes, basically the numbers are recorded for the museum, but they don't come through onto the corporate reporting at the moment. In terms of the town centre as a whole, the numbers are also recorded, and I think those again are a trend, aren't they? They don't come through on the formal system. No, so but we can find that out. We can get the figures for you, and we can send on with the minutes for both the town and the Guildhall.
Yeah, because I think that's quite a fundamental piece of information, really. How many people are actually users of the Guildhall at the moment? Also, picking up on Councillor Gilbert's point, which I wholeheartedly agree with, in Boston, USA, there's such a thing as a Freedom Trail, that you can go around the town in Boston, Massachusetts, and find out the history of Boston. Maybe it might be an idea to link the comments that Councillor Gilbert has made today and form our own Freedom Trail, which links into Boston, Massachusetts, which would be the golden thread that Councillor Gilbert mentioned of our history. quite a cheap and easy way to involve all the organisations in your cultural quarter. It may be a project for the college, because to my knowledge, I don't think the college uses the Guildhall very much, which would be a fantastic venue for art exhibitions or performance arts, all kind of things. But I also do know that there is a problem with Guildhall, as in parking, with toilet facilities, and that I don't think there's a kitchen, is there? Which really does limit it. I mean, I do have, knowledge of historic buildings and working with historic buildings. So I know that is a bit of a drawback for you, for visitor numbers and that kind of thing.
Yeah, and that's one of the things they do kind of pick up on in the Visit England report, is that we've only got one toilet.
Exactly. Yes, so you're very limited to how many people you can have.
Yeah. But as for the Freedom Trail, that's a great point. Thank you, Councillor Welbury, and I'll definitely make note of that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? I'd just like to say, well done for the report, Councillor Sharp. I do sympathise with you. I did hold this portfolio between 15 and 19, and without a budget, how do you drive tourism in the town? And that's what I was trying to do. The Guildhall is part of Boston's history, and it's a fantastic building. They are concerning figures, income over expenditure, and I wish you well with your new action plan. And obviously we've considered this report and its appendix, and we will provide feedback on the action plan. Councillor Danny?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just would like Phil, if he can send the emails about the footfall at the Guildhall. All of us, if we can have that, that would be appreciated.
So thank you, everybody. Item 3, moving on, is our events update on page 63. And this will be presented by the Assistant Director of Leisure and Culture, Phil Perry, and the Interim Cultural Services Manager, Rachel Rowett.
Thank you. So obviously you've all received the report. This report covers events that have taken place in 2023 and touches on plans for 2024. So the events team have a varied programme of events across the year, partly funded by BTAC and partly by the Boston Borough Council events budget. We have one event officer and an event assistant that deliver this. We have some large-scale events, such as the annual Boston Mayfair, which is always really well attended, and this year we extended it by an extra day because of the coronation. We had a Boston Classic Car Show event, a vintage festival over 2 weekends, which was really well received, and we're hoping to do that again next year. And we extended the Christmas event this year for a 4-day Christmas market with Illuminate Parade, which was hugely successful at the end of November. We also support community events with advice on how to organise events and support and pointing them in the right direction to work with agencies. And we're now planning for 2024. So in the appendices, there's the list of events that took place last year and the list of events planned for next year. Some of them are subject to external funding, so it could change. And there's also some community events that we're supporting groups with that may be joining the calendar for the year coming. But this appendices is really focusing on the events that the team have delivered themselves. And that includes the events team and also our healthy activities officer for some of the beach days in Central Park. On the whole, the events have all gone really well. We've had really good attendance. There's been some challenges with weather, which certainly affected some of the events in Central Park. But yeah, I welcome your feedback. Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel. Councillor Gilbert.
Just declare an interest. I am actually a resident member of the Boston Big Local panel. Boston Big Local have financed or funded a number of the borough councils, or part-funded a number of the borough councils events, so I probably need to declare that. But I also have an observation to make. I think it's great that Boston Borough Council produce and provide events in the town centre. the Christmas event this year was very ambitious, and I can understand why it was an ambition to have a 4-day event. But I think there was a very rapidly diminishing return on the investment in that event, and I just think it would be preferable to look at maybe in future having a light switch on and a half day or a day event the following day rather than a 4-day event, because having attended the latter 2 days of the 4-day event, the footfall was significant. Well, it was handfuls of people wandering around. The weather wasn't great, as you indicated, but then the weather at that time of year, generally speaking, isn't that great anyway, and the nights are drawing in and everything. So for me, it was a fantastic opportunity to try and do something good for Boston, but I think overall the investment petered away after about the second day. Yeah, just an observation.
Anybody else got any questions or comments to make? Councillor Staples?
Yeah, I think there was a driving ambition to try and give the town something that they sorely missed the following year. And we were also very mindful of the retailers, the businesses in town. And I think more than anything else, there was the desire to try and support them. And having spoken to 1 or 2 businesses since the event, they did actually do quite well and they were glad. So it's a bit of a swings and roundabout situation. You know, maybe there didn't seem to be that many people in town looking at the events that were on, but I think the businesses benefited. And with what happened last year, I think we had to, well, the businesses had to be supported. And certainly I know Boots had never been busier. And I would worry that Boots might be the town's next casualty in losing a business. So, you know, if that we help them, then possibly we did our job, quite frankly. Anyway, just my observations.
Thank you, Councillor Staples. Councillor Danny.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Yes, I think we have to support anything happening in Boston, to be honest with you, because we have to bring some positivity in town, and we have to, you know, probably give something back to the Bostonians, because unfortunately you mentioned last year it was probably a disaster with our Christmas tree, which is I was against, and we fought against it. However, to no avail. Some people were so stubborn to keep that. But anyway, that's happened in the past. All what we can do is go forward. And I think I can see probably that as all of us, we can improve for the next, you know, time, and you learn more, because as long as you keep going and learning, that's the best thing we can do, and people will notice that. The thing I want to mention here is just coming to page 68, and I will go to health and well-being, both of them. Now, because when you go to health, it's by 2030, the gap in healthy life expectancy between local areas where it is highest and lowest will have narrowed. And by 2035, the health life expectancy will rise by 5 years. Now, I don't know how we get these figures and how we build our assumptions, because looking at the diversity now in Boston, it's a lot of communities, and the fact of it and the reality, there is a lot of people coming from deprived areas in Europe, and these people, by contacting them and talking to them, you found out that some of them, and most of them, they have a lot of issues, heart problems, lung problems, and physical problems. So really, I don't see that we're going to have an expectancy, because that group of people will affect, because it's not a minority or it's like 1% or 2%. I would probably think 35–40% of Boston is becoming a different, complete different EU members. So that's one of the things I would like to know, how we got to that point that by, you know, we're going to increase the life expectancy by 5%. To add to that, there's a lot of people lately at a young age, and not far 2 weeks ago, a friend of our family, 28, passed away, and they say there is complications since he took the COVID vaccine. So there is these rumors as well. So there is a fact here that a lot of people probably may go that way. Then I will come to the well-being, which is by 2030, well-being will have improved in every area of the UK, with the gap between top performing and other areas closing. I tell you, I'm not a pessimist person or being negative. The reality of it, the European economy is not growing that much, is shrinking in many different ways. So looking at our gaps that they're going to close here and here, I think it's very optimistic way of looking at it. But coming, as I say, to the reality, the things are not looking that great for the next 5 or 10 years. Just like an explanation on what we based our assumptions to come to make everything looks positive. We have to be at least, saying that, yes, things is not as positive as it's going to be. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Chair. The elements on page 68 is to do with the levelling up white paper. So these are the ambitions that the council or the partnership has in terms of working towards, and the elements of this report will support the council moving forward. Getting people out, communities active, communities working, collaborating, coming together, will all help towards that. It's not, this report itself will not deliver those aspects. It works towards delivering those aspects. So these are ambitions. If you look at page 67, it says this paper contributes to the following missions outlined in the government's levelling up white paper. So it's a contribution towards. It's a standard. It's on all reports. Every report you'll have from the authority will have elements of this on it.
So basically, it's an ambition thing. Yeah, just more like ambition. Yeah. So if we would like to probably place it in between probably 0 to 10, where we can put it for the future, is it 10, 8, 7, or is it just something that we have to put there and to be ambitious about that?
Yeah, basically these are links to missions in the Levelling Up white paper. So basically this is the whole. What events will provide people is in terms of health, is a lot of social, mental health, inspire. The working with the actual elements within the report. So the report covers a whole combination of different types of events, work we do, supporting the community put on events as well, and supporting them, to be able to develop and have the skills to put on events. So basically, all this element at the end is just talking about the ambitions of the authority and how such activity will help support the council move forward in its ambitions for health and wellbeing.
Councillor Gilbert.
When we started today's discussion, I made reference to levelling up and made reference to the fact that some of the government's aspirations are a bit on the naive side. And of course, here we have them all laid out for us, don't we? By 2030, the government would like to see pay, employment and productivity has risen in every area of the UK, with each containing a globally competitive city, with the gap between the top performing and other areas closing. I mean, these are the government's aspirations. They bear virtually no relevance to Boston particularly, and in fact there are some aspects of Boston's town centre economy in particular which are going in reverse to some of these aspirations, and I think we need to be honest about that. And rather than just sticking these in where they just look like, what? How are we expected to deliver that? Do we actually have the ability to not include these things, or to tailor these things to something which is a lot more relevant to Boston, and maybe stretches us, but not stretches us to the point where by 2030 it's all going to be completely unachievable?
Yeah, we could take this back. This is in every single report that comes for members, so there'll be elements of this within it. So yeah, yes, we could take the comment back, and I'm sure that can be reviewed. However, a lot of the work we do does help contribute towards, and I appreciate your what you're saying about them. But elements of work, especially events. Events is one of the best social ways of bringing people together in the town, and actually bringing all communities together. You only have to look at the Christmas, and I appreciate elements of where some elements were busy and others in the 4 days Christmas celebration. But actually, when you looked at the Thursday evening and the crowds that come together, a lot of the work is done with the schools, bringing people together. So it brings the children together, which of course brings the families together as well. There is a lot of really, really good work that the events program delivers for the town. It also, all ages as well. When we talk about the beach events, we just say beach events, but actually some of those events are for older residents with dementia and bringing people together to actually support them in having a good day out, reminiscing and singing songs and coming back. That really, really does help them. Or young people with skate park, skate jam, where young people can get together and sort of see some aspirational skills and for their own benefit in terms of using the skate park. So it goes on when you look at skills, you look at health, you look at crime. It all has a positive effect, and events do an awful lot for the town to bring. And as we heard earlier, supporting the businesses as well, because bringing people into the town centre means hopefully some of them will visit other establishments in the town as well for food, or for shopping.
I don't dispute anything you said. I mean, I think the main point is that these are just lifted out of a white paper and just dropped into a report that's specific to Boston. And I think if it's not a legal requirement that we just cut and paste these in, then maybe we need to look at whether or not we actually do include all of these, or whether we actually are a bit more circumspect about what we can actually achieve in Boston, given what we know about Boston's, town centre economy and the demographic changes that have taken place over the last 20 years, which are actually impacting on. And I think you're right. I think the one thing you could say about the fantastic event on the light switch on was it just about brought every single community in Boston together. And it was really great to see it. If you could sort of replicate that every week, it would be fantastic. But it's a lot more challenging than that, and therefore these aspirations are a lot less achievable. And as I say, I think we need to be honest with people about what we can achieve, even though the government would like us to achieve all this.
Thank you, Councillor Welbury.
Here I go again with my practical questions. I see that 11 or 12 of the events are taking place in Central Park. Bearing in mind what happened in Central Park in October, is the park going to be available for some of these big music festival events without it, resorting to be a ploughed field again? And may it be something for us to think about alternative venues if the weather continues to be wet? Because it did cause a lot of furore in the town, and to see the park is, quite sad, really. You don't want to make it worse. That's what I'm trying to say.
No, I fully take your point, Councillor, and it's the first time that's ever been an issue. I mean, it was quite awkward because they were already on before the warning of the storm came, and then of course there's not a huge amount they could reasonably do. It was a private event. It was private hire for the space. Going forward, yes. Looking at the weather patterns now, how they're gradually changing year on year. Yeah. That is being debated whether or not we can reasonably put an autumn fair back into the park. Actually, alternative venue is being discussed to look at the opportunities going forward, because it's a good, it's a good event and people enjoyed it. It's just the Central Park may no longer be the best venue.
Well, there's 11 or 12 quite big events that in this event 2024 that are due to take place in Central Park. They're going to overload it again, seeing that it is in quite a poor state at the moment, with new grass being sown. You don't want to be churning it up again with a vintage classic car or classic car show or vintage festival. I'm just saying, maybe you should think of alternative venues around Boston to give the park a rest and not have it back to how it is currently. Yes, especially if there's rain on rain, if another storm, Babette or something like that, which is going to happen. Let's face it, global warming. So, what's your contingency is what I'm trying to say.
I mean, in terms of the contingencies, the park is actually being the park where it is a central point, and being a safe space to do events. It is the best place we have in the town for events. However, as you said, we are looking now more carefully at what we put on when. The summer and August can, we know August can be a wet month as well. However, so it's a difficult because we can't just put things in the marketplace all the time because there are other pressures to the markets themselves, being charter markets. So and there's also access issues and safety issues. When you look at numbers of vehicles, we did, if you remember, the bike night used to come in and use the marketplace, but as that event grew, the marketplace was no longer a safe place, so went to Central Park because it was a safe place to undertake that event. We will be looking at these things carefully as we go forward as we develop. The fair is arguably the largest, heaviest weight vehicles we would have in the park, and the number of them is the reason why the park ended up as it was, and that is being repaired. And the event organisers take responsibility for repairing the damage caused. It's just one of those incidents, unfortunately, where we were unlucky, and that is the first time I'm aware of that we've had this issue in the park.
Oh, yeah, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that it will be new grass and it will be newly laid. And then there's 11 or 12 events that some are quite sizable that will be expected to take place on new grass. We don't want it to end up looking like it does now. I mean, have you thought about Woody Park or somewhere like that, to host some of these events?
There's other aspects we need to take consideration when we do a large event in the town. Things like parking and access to having it in the town is good for the town as well in terms of bringing in for the businesses. So having high footfall coming forward, of course, benefits the town as a whole. It's something we discussed, of course, at the Boston Town Area Committee, because it's most of the events that go into the park are Boston Town Area Committee events, and of course the Central Park is a Boston Town Area Committee venue. So of course that's partly why it is really, really positive place to do it. But we will be careful. We'll try to be more careful than in the past. And in terms of the October Fair, which again was not an event the council put on, the organiser has asked for an alternative venue, and that's something we will be considering.
Oh, I agree. Central Park is the best place for it. It just don't want to keep on, turning up the grass, really, do we? So.
Thank you, Councillor Welbury. It needs to be considered, doesn't it? Because grass doesn't just grow overnight, does it? So, Councillor Danny.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I just want to compliment on Councillor Welbury, and I will mention, the bike night. When I arrived to Boston, it used to be, organized at the marketplace. So every business used to benefit. Then when it was moved to the park, most of the people, they stay in the park because there is a bar there, there is a burger place, there's everything. So when you go in and you spend 2 hours there, most of the people, they stay in and they drink. So they don't add anything to the economy of the town center. And I remember I was talking once to Costa Coffee, they closed by 5 o'clock. They say, because nobody comes, we're going to close. So really in the park, certain big events, I would like them to come back to the marketplace because the town hub is there. It's much cleaner, it's easier, and we can involve even vintage cars with them. And they did it before and it was working nicely because everybody goes to shops, goes to the pubs around, and that's revived the town altogether. I've never been a favor of having events except probably small ones like I think the beach event and cinema and these things is good in the park. However, bikes or cars or anything like that, I think, or fun fair should be somewhere which is probably nicer, easy in town and safe. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Basically, the actual bike night is again an external event. It's not a council event or a BTEC event. However, as the event grew, there issues of safety, public safety, come to the fore. So when they're looking at spaces they can manage more safely, we would support them, and that's why Central Park was one of the venues used. It's difficult as well. The costs of groups putting on events is a real challenge. So they have to be able to manage them safely and make sure that they can afford the numbers of staff, security, and everything that you need to do to manage that event. When you're looking at a space like the marketplace, there has more challenges. Road closures are required, and a number of other things that are often required to manage events safely in that area. Central Park is a much easier space for them to operate. So sometimes that's why it's moved. It wasn't intended to go anywhere else. It's just the fact that as it grew, it got so big that of course they're looking for ways of making that event work. And as we're aware, the costs of events have gone up and up and up, and that's made it very difficult for some people now to put on events that perhaps we've enjoyed in the past.
Just a short one. How much we rent the park? Is it around £8,000 per event? If I'm
It varies on the event and who is actually putting the event on and for what purpose. And it depends who's doing it, because some events are very small charitable events, whereas a big commercial event, an income taken, that's where we charge for use of the event, use of the space. It was £8,000.
because if £8,000, it can balance, the White Bargate, parking and cattle markets, parking. That could be, I don't know how much money we take on daily basis there or wherever. So that could balance if we give them that place, because it's segregated. It has already, the fences around. You have 2 gates. You can control people in and out.
Yeah, that is what's being looked at for the fair. That's exactly what they're looking to do, is to see whether or not there's a better opportunity in a car park. Of course, there will be costs to be considered for the council, and of course we'll be liaising with our parking colleagues if that's an opportunity.
Thank you. Anybody else got any questions or comments? Thank you for all your feedback on the events programme. The 4th report this evening is the Q2 performance monitoring, which is on page 75. And will be presented by our Group Manager for Insights and Transformation, Suzanne Rolfe.
Thank you. So this is our usual quarterly performance report. This one is up to the end of September. So the purpose of the report is to feed into your work programme. So there might be items of interest in the report that you want to look at the next item when you look at the work programme. If they're within your remit, it might be something for this committee to look at, or you might want to recommend it to the other committee, the Corporate and Community Committee, if it falls within their remit. And on the next item, you'll talk about the different options. So it could be a report to this committee, or it could be a working group or a member briefing. But just to have a look at the appendix with the detail of the performance, just a reminder about how the colours work. So you'll see there that there are some red measures, and these are the ones which are below target. So it might be that you'd be wanting to look in a bit more detail at some of those measures where they are red, they're not hitting the target that we've set. Although there is commentary against each of those which explains some of the context, so that might be enough. There are also some ambers, so where we aren't quite on target but we're close. Those are the amber measures. And again, you might want to ask some questions about those areas. There's one, for example, on food safety, where the performance is starting to go off track, and there's commentary in there about how the team are addressing that before it gets to red. So again, amber, it might be an area coming back onto track, or it might be going off track. And then there are some green measures on there. So those that are on target, just because they're on target, you may still have some questions. You might want to know about how that's hitting the target, a bit more detail about the area, or to see if we can share some of that learning with other areas. And then the 4th example on there are the trend measures. So some things are not within the direct control of the Borough Council, but we would like to know how those numbers are progressing. So we have trend only data. It's not a performance. We can't set a target and get to it. But for example, we've got on the first page there the number of verified rough sleepers. Nothing that we can directly affect, but looking at that trend data does help us to know whether we should be putting more resources in. If there's more work that needs to be done, it just gives us that trend over time. And those are the areas that we talked about with the previous report, that footfall may be a new measure that you'd like to see, which we talked about before the meeting. So there may be other measures that you'd like to include in there. So I'd happily take any questions that you might have and anything that you might want to feed in to the next item for the work plan.
Councillor Austin.
I'm pleased to hear that footfall is being considered to be included as a key performance indicator. I think that would be a great interest to a lot of the council officers and members. But in addition to that, why can I suggest this committee suggests that we include the value of the visitor economy? Can the cabinet propose consider putting that in? And I think that will focus on many of the things that we were discussing in relation to the Guildhall tonight. So that's so I think we should very much support the idea of the footfall as a key performance indicator, and could the value of the visitor economy be included as well, please?
We can have a discussion about that. Yeah.
Councillor Gilbert.
Three observations. That the first one relates to the percentage of car parking income received against agreed annual budget, and it says there data not previously reported, but it sort of slides up. I would have thought if that was being reported from quarter one, it would have just suddenly shot up and it would be sort of fairly level, but it's quite a steep incline. So I just wonder why that's the case. Another observation, it relates to sickness absence and why that's trend, because these people are presumably our employees, so we should have some ability to manage their sickness absence. And then the final one is relating to market occupancy rate, and I'm just concerned to see that market occupancy rate has gone down quite significantly since quarter two of last year, and we pride ourselves on being a market town, and yet we're seeing an annual decline in the number of market stalls, and whether or not that should become a target that we apply ourselves to trying to address at some point.
Thank you. Yes, the graph I think is a formatting issue, so I will have a look at that and sort that out. Some of the other graphs, they all follow the same format, but where there's missing data, it shouldn't shoot up like that. So I will sort the formatting out for that one. The sickness absence is a trend because we can't set a target to say how much sickness there ought to be.
Right.
So we can manage the sickness itself, but the numbers tend to show us if there's something else that we need to look at. If it was an increase in short-term sickness, for example, we'd do some more work around that. So we don't want to set a target and say everybody should have X number of days sickness, because that doesn't drive the right kind of behaviour. It's more looking at what the trend is telling us and then working on that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense.
And the market occupancy one, there's an improvement plan in place at the moment, looking at the whole of the market. So that will impact on that measure.
Big question.
Councillor Staples.
Thank you, Chair. Market. I just think that we've had quite a lot of adverse weather where the market has had to be closed. Do you think the fact that the market stall holders perhaps, are getting concerned about being out in bad weather, would it be a good idea if this council started to look to having an indoor market? Just a personal observation and thought, that's all.
I'd like buildings in the town that would be perfectly
Thank you
for that, haven't we?
Councillor Danny.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. And I just want to come to page 79 and percentage of homelessness. And basically it's in red because I think it's quite risky. I don't see how we're going to get out of the red, because there's a lot of people now losing their jobs. And this is talking to employment agencies. Many newcomers, they get probably some forms, they fill them, they get jobs at night shift within a week, 2-3 weeks. And then after that, they don't go back to the factories where they work. And so they end up just hanging around with their families or with their friends. And if the things will be going the way it is now, we're going to have more homeless people. And the homeless people we know about now is the one we know them actually. The one we don't know, believe you and me, there is more probably. I think probably it will be a shocking number to see, because some of them, they are already living in different areas. That's one thing. The second thing, which is I want to touch on, is the planning decisions. Why is that in red? Is it because lack of staff, or we are not dealing with the applications in the right way, or there is sicknesses, or what's the reason of that?
Is that the one to do with extensions? Is that the planning extensions figure that you're looking at?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So the reason that
Yes.
it's red is because sometimes it is in the applicant's best interest to have a longer time for the planning application. So it's a new measure that we put in a couple of years ago, just to make sure that we are all the areas that we are in control of, that we move those as quickly as possible. But we found that actually that measure is not very helpful, because often it is better to have a longer process and a good decision rather than to be too quick with things. So that's a measure that we're going to drop in the next financial year. We'll still have some commentary about it against the normal measures, but it is one that's a bit of a red herring, really. I'm not sure that all applicants do want a quick decision. If they'd rather have a better decision that takes a little bit longer and has a bit more support within it. So yes, that's one of those odd measures that will go after the next 2 quarters.
Can I come back, Madam Chairman? So you are telling me that some applicants, they rather have a long-term decision than have a quick decision or on the spot?
It depends on the context. So if the case is that the planning decision would go against the applicant, unless they could do some more work on it, then they'd rather have a bit longer to get that right, rather than a quick no and then have to go through the process again. So it is one of those strange measures that really hasn't helped us to understand. The other measures around how quickly we process the decisions have been much better. And they're all green measures, and they are being turned around very quickly. It's a bit of an anomaly, but yes, the portfolio holder has had a look at it and is recommending that we remove it for next year, because it's just not a helpful measure.
Thank you. Just one comment I want to make, and then I think for the marketplace, and the stalls in the market, I think it's the weather control most of the trading sometimes. And, talking to the traders, if it's rainy day, some of them, they don't like to come out. It's basically that way. But I can see that there is new stalls coming in. There is a different, stalls coming here. There is now a gentleman who's selling drinks and whatever is there. So it's quite good. There is a Romanian van, which is to sell Romanian foods. So it's good to see these things. And there is one thing which is I'm very happy to see, is we are starting a car boot without cars, because there is now 2 or 3 stores selling second-hand stuff. So people, they bring things in and selling them, which is quite good, because a lot of people, they go around charity shops. Now they go around the market where they found things, for a £5 or probably £6. So that's encouraging. Probably if that one grows, we can probably move it somewhere else and may give us another probably a scope for making more money. And there is probably I think the parking by the high street, the Boyd parking, I think that's what they call it, the line. They can use that probably in the future, and it will be probably our pièce de résistance to make some money on that, and it will be good. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Danny. Any other points, or Councillor Welbury?
Just relating on page 83 to the food safety, is that new or established businesses?
It includes both, so it's the new businesses and the established businesses that go through a rolling programme. Yeah.
But what I'm trying to say is the figures skewed by more new, or is it that doesn't make any difference?
It doesn't skew the figures, no. I think it is around some changes to the current businesses, and that's why the team are going in to do a bit more help to support the businesses to understand how they can improve their scores.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Marson, welcome.
It's about the homeless bit. So recently, for example, somebody's contacted me. They've reported that somebody is homeless on private land. Yeah. Homeless team apparently was emailed, or Info Boston was emailed. He had no reply after 9 days, so he contacted me. I contacted John Baxter, and then he got a reply. But that, you know, that should have been a lot quicker than 9 days. So the people that the homeless team, I presume it was the homeless team, went out to, have been told today that they can't get any help till the 8th of January. They won't be able to see them till then. So I think that's, you know, dragging it out. Yeah, quite surprised at that, really. I thought it'd be a lot quicker, and I thought if somebody emails you, to ignore the email's not a good thing.
Yeah, let me take that back and I'll find out what happened.
I've left my. The Kingdom contract's interesting. I mean, they're doing a good job, but we're not getting the money in, are we? Really, it doesn't appear to be many people actually paying their fixed penalties, according to the information on page 85. I just wonder what support, if any, we can offer this company to ensure that more people do pay, or whether there's anything that can be done to assist them, because they're clearly doing their job, but they're not getting. We're not getting the benefit of that from the people who are having the fixed penalty notices issued against them.
I think some of it is around a timing issue. So by the time we get some more data in, we'll be able to see that increase, because there's a certain amount of time from when the notice is issued until they get chance to pay, or with some of the other figures around prosecutions as well, they'll come through at a later date. So I think if we give it a few more quarters to see where it lands, and then we'll have a look at that.
In view of the changing nature of Boston's town centre economy, and the fact that we do have a significantly high number of HMOs and a fairly, I mean, the phrase you'd use, I guess, is there's quite a lot of churn in Boston town centre in terms of the movement of its population. Is it possible to get some metrics on that, whether or not the failure to pay is due to the fact that the location of the individual who has the fixed penalty issued against them is unknown? Is that possible?
I'll ask. I'll find
I think this is the sort of detail that, as a council, we need to be finding out, because, of course, it's relevant to the nature of our town centre society, our town centre economy, you know, and the various communities that live in our town centre. So it'd be useful to have more of that information, and we could make a start with something like this.
Yeah, I'll ask. It might be that we can bring all of the reasons so that we can have a full picture rather than a specific reason. But yes, I'll ask.
Councillor Danny.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to come to Councillor Marson. Is it the person, because somebody came to me and he was living in a tent? Oh, it's not the same, because that person I followed up and he said he sorted out. Yeah, no, it's not. It's a different one. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay, that's fine. The other thing I want to come to is the last page. It's repairs and maintenance percentage, because it looks Q2 went very high. Is there any reason for that?
Is that spend against budget? Repairs and maintenance percentage committed against? Yes. Yeah, so that will go up through the year. So about 55% is about spot on for halfway through the year. Yeah.
Anybody else? All finished. Thank you very much. Thank you. Finally, we have the work programme moving forward for the new year, which is on page 101. Christian, have you got anything to add?
Not particularly, Madam Chairman. It's there for members of the committee to see. So nothing more. Thank you.
Anton, would you like to give us an update on your members' working group? Yes. Car parks.
My apologies. I'm sorry. Oh. Yes, I think I sent all the questions to Karen, and I think it have been forwarded. So it was the first meeting. Basically, we talked about the parking around town. Some of the question is how much money we generate, how many penalties we have generated as well. The money is all regarding the parkings and basically how we are using our parkings. Is there adequate signage for people from out of the town to know where is the parkings? So these sort of things, and I think we're going to go forward. It was very, I mean, for the first meeting, it was very successful, and I think there was a lot of debate. As I say, we're looking forward to have the result from Karen and any answers, and hopefully we go forward, because all what we want, I mean, we're a group of passionate people about Boston, and we would like things to be done in the right way, and we would like to improve our parkings. We would like to improve the town in general, and hopefully, I think from the answers we can go forward and see how we can work with you, with your culture, Councillor Sharp, so we can work with different, portfolio holders as well, with the communities, and see where we can get. If we have to probably even put in the signs in different language, it will be appropriate so people can know. So this is the things we're talking about, and it was very positive. That's all I can say.
Thank you, Councillor Danny, and your working group. That concludes all the items on the. Oh, sorry, Councillor Gilbert.
I just want to my sort of the itch that I keep needing to scratch is the issue of the PRSA, and obviously I've been approached by somebody who's involved in that, who wants to put that before a scrutiny committee, and I'm very keen to do that, but unfortunately it doesn't seem to go anywhere, and I never seem to get an explanation as to why it doesn't seem to go anywhere. And I wonder if anyone can perhaps explain that to me. I mean, I'm quite prepared to accept the fact it won't go to scrutiny, but I'd like to know why.
Would you like to come in, Phil?
Yeah, the PRSA is actually managed through a property lease. It's not a contract. There's not a leisure contract on that site. So it's managed. We are looking at that and drawing into a contract in future years. So we are looking at the opportunity, but at this point in time, it is a property lease. So it falls under the auspices of the lease and how you manage the lease.
My understanding was, even though it's a lease, it's still in the gift of the scrutiny committees to assess, undertake an evaluation of, critique the lease, and to perhaps make some sort of suggestions going forward, so that the issues that I have some concerns about, which relate to the use of the athletics track and the athletics facilities there, because we're losing money by not having those facilities properly maintained by the leasee, if you like, that can be addressed.
I'm sure there's no reason why scrutiny can't look into the matter, but again, it is operated under lease, so our assets team would be the conduit for looking at that opportunity.
Continually goes nowhere. That's the problem.
So what would you like to do?
Well, I mean, I've put it forward as a proposal for one of the scrutiny committees to look into the issue of the PRSA, Princess Royal Sports Arena. It had an athletics track and facilities that were of a regional, if not of a national standard, but those have been degraded over the years, and the equipment's been damaged and stolen and not replaced. And as a result of that, the Sports Council are unwilling to sort of make grants available for us. And also there's nobody who's, if you like, competent to manage that particular aspect of the PRSA. So it's essentially run like a gym, but it's got this sort of what was state-of-the-art athletics facility attached to it. And this state-of-the-art athletics facility is now no longer state of the art, and we could get funding to improve it. It could take its place as a centre of regional, if not national excellence, if we could get the funding to develop it. But we just never seem to have the conversation about it. I take the point that it's a lease, and the lease is specifically about managing the gym and the pool and the sauna and the solarium or whatever, and not necessarily the athletics track. But that is basically the problem.
No, Chair, the lease is covers the whole demise premises. So so the lease, all the and the rugby club and everything else is involved in that lease as well. So the lease is for the property, and said I appreciate
that, but I think my point is that the lease covers everything, but it's being run just like a gym rather than as a gym with an athletics facility attached to it. The athletic side of things is being run down.
But as I see it, Councillor Gilbert, this has only just been released to a new company. What are we going to scrutinise if they have got the lease of it? Surely it's up to them and whatever is in the lease as to how they manage it and how they maintain it. Whatever we say, is it going to hold any?
Maybe we can
Please come
assist
in,
them.
Bill.
I mean, yes, it's difficult. There are things that they should be doing as in terms of maintaining the site. It's offered on a pay and play basis, which is so it is available for hire. Whether they're able to apply for grants to supporting that is something they would need to look at, and it's something that's coming forward that you're aware of. We can happily pass that on to them to have a look at what they may be able to bring secure funding for. And like I said, we're looking at the future of the site as well as part of the work that the council's doing under the annual delivery plan. But there's a new company that has now, the company that has been bought out by another leisure company who's just, as Madam Chair said, just literally started taking over, and will start to look at the site as well.
In writing to somebody about why I thought this was important, and at one point I think a lot of us around this table did feel it was important that we look at the PRSA, but it seems to have sort of slipped off the plate, and I just wonder whether we can sort of slop it back onto the plate again somehow. But there you go.
I'm more than happy to put it on the agenda, but I'm not quite sure where we are and what we're going to scrutinise when it has just recently been leased out to a new company. But please come in, Councillor Marson.
I do know that the previous people that was leasing it was looking at the new track. They do need a new track, and it is absolutely it's so expensive to have a new track put there. Now, a lot of the athletes that used to go there said it was the best one in Lincolnshire to use. But I think when the vaccine programme was there, it was out of use for so long that they started finding other places to go. And I think that's why a lot of them don't use it as much as what they used to now. I know that some of the schools still use it, but the track is still very usable, but it's got to have if you're going to do it, there's nothing more you can do to it apart from having a completely new track. But I know that the previous lease was looking into it, but the money was it was so expensive. So I don't know, but yeah.
But I'm just wondering if, these people have not been there very long. Do we give them time and actually, we need our officers to talk to them and say, well, what are you looking to do? Because surely they can get grants easier than we as a council can. But I am more than happy to scrutinise whatever you wish to scrutinise. Councillor Danny.
What I will suggest, I think, is probably scrutinizing is probably a stronger word. I think we should look probably at the lease and what's the conditions of the lease. Is there any condition put on the lease for them to maintain it or ask for the grant? I will support Councillor Gilbert, because otherwise, us as a council, we should work with them and drive them towards success rather than just let it deteriorated and when they don't have any track. That could bring us a lot of money if we have a lot of events during the year. That's probably a good income we can generate from there. That's one thing. The second thing, which is I would like if we can add it on the next agenda, Madam Chair, is the situation with Jeff Mulder. Is it went to tender? Who is holding it? Because there is a lot of rumors going on. Who is the company is taking Jeff Mulder?
So before we move on to Jeff Mulder,
yes.
I mean, I know in the past we had big issues with who the leaseholders of PRSA, and they weren't doing what they should have been doing. I'm happy to do whatever you want to do regarding not Jeff Mulder, PRSA, but I just think we should give them time, and if there are still continuing issues down there, then we'll look at it. But it's still, when did they take over? Did you want to come in, Christian? Or
in terms of Parkwood bought out One Life literally a few months ago. And now coming in. So the loss of the people that used to work, they're no longer there. It's in terms of the company, the staff are still there, of course, of the PRSA. In terms of things like the track is of a certain age, and it has worn. So basically, it's a challenge. I mean, we have the same challenges when we're looking at our own facilities, trying to bring funding in to make the improvements we'd like to make. it's not easy, and to try and generate to bring in that level of grant is quite hard. So we will be raising it and talking to them about the opportunities going forward, and I'm sure that they will be picking this up. But as Manchester says, it literally is. They've just literally started. We're trying to talk about their fundamentals at the moment as well, in terms of how we operate heat, light, other things with them. So there are a number of things that are ongoing. They're looking at how they sign leases and everything to get going forward. There's a rugby club to consider as well, of course, who are a mainstay of that site. So yes, I'm sure in time there would be opportunity to look at, and I'm sure they'd be quite happy to come and talk about it.
Make one observation, one comment. The Boston Athletics Club have approached me, and I mean they have the expertise necessary to run a facility like that. I suppose if it's possible for this new company to sort of sublease to them, that might be one way of drawing in some money from Sports England. It's really the Sports England money that we could get, as long as we sort of like tee everything up in the right way.
Yeah, thank you. So at the moment there isn't. There is an underlease for the rugby club, which is in place, which is the agreement through the council. The athletics club are able to use it on a pay and play basis, and that is a long-standing arrangement that's been in place. It would be up to the leaseholder to come and talk to the council should they wish to vary that lease in any way. At the moment, the capacity, in a way that the place is set up, the rugby club have the benefit of the club facilities, and they are a long-standing tenant within that, and they have rights to be able to utilise that space. So I don't think it's probably a possibility at the moment. However, if they wish to speak to the new company coming in to talk about the greater use of the facilities in terms of pay and play basis, that'd be no problem with that at all.
Sorry, Councillor Danny, then we were talking about
Jeff Mulder, yes, and we would like, just for the transparency, we would like to know what's going on, because there is rumors going on, and I heard it probably before July that there is a company taking over Jeff Mulder, and some stuff they were worried, they may not be working or not. So as I say, for the transparency, and I know this new council, promote transparency, would like to know what's going on and how much money, is it rented for, and what the tender was, which company we give it to, or is it the best company to run it with an experience, or is it the cheapest company or the expensive company? We need to know these things.
But I would say that it's been fully through the committee system and through the press in terms of the going forward with the company that the Jeff Mulder was tendered, and Parkwood Leisure was a successful company to take on the contract. It's a transition contract because, as you know, there's also the works due for the Towns Fund to develop the front end of the leisure centre as well. So it's basically a contract that would be it's a transition contract for 3 years, and we're now looking at how we go forward beyond those 3 years. There'll be another contract that'll be coming forward, which will be across the partnership in line with the annual delivery plan. So the contractor Parkwood started on the 1st of December. So we're 19 days into the new contract. The transition, as far as I'm aware, has been very, very smooth. We've had some really good support from PSPS in terms of helping it, go forward in terms of moving things across. I'm sure at some point this committee will be looking at how that's progressing, and the portfolio holder who's sat with us this evening is taking a keen interest on performance and monitoring how the contract progresses.
Did you want to come in, Christian, or?
All I was going to suggest, maybe at an appropriate time, as to whether I'm going back to the PRSA now, whether the operator, the PRSA, might be willing to come to committee or come to a briefing to explain what their plans are for the future for PRSA. That was only going to be my suggestion. I think, obviously, I will. It fills the lead service AD for leisure, so I will take a lead from Phil, really. on this particular subject.
Yeah, we'll be happy. I mean, it'd be through assets. Andy Fisher would be the in terms of the property lease itself. However, yes, I'm heavily involved with the same company. They're also the company that runs the Castle Sports Complex for South Holland District Council at present as well. But they've been happy to come and talk before in terms of present. You know, and as we move forward, it's something that's only just been talked about how we move forward. So we're probably a little ways off having all that work through, but I'm sure they'd be happy to come and talk in the future.
And I think, to be fair, Councillor Gilbert, I did respond to your email after an EMP, and I think you possibly did as well, regarding the PRSA. It's a while ago, but yes, I did respond. But it's possibly another conversation we need to be having with Phil. Possibly not within this meeting though, because there are, yeah, okay. Councillor Marson.
Just going to quickly finish off on the PRSA. The people that have took it over now must have big ideas for, like you say, renovating it and doing it all, because the place is in such disrepair. I'm not the whole building. It's not just a track. The whole building. I worked there. I was in with a leaking roof and the floods in the room. It's bad. So for them to take it on, they must be taking it on to know they're going to really. Do you know what I mean? They've got to do it all. Yeah.
I'm fully with you there, Councillor Marson. Again, it was part of my portfolio, and the old company did not do what they were supposed to be doing within their agreement, and they've left it to rack and ruin. So yeah, I fully get it. Councillor Staples.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Yeah, listening to you all, I do think, to be fair to this new company, they need to be given 6 months to try and prove themselves. And then I do think we have every right as a council to question them, because we've got to protect this asset. We want a good sports facility for the people of the town. So just give them a little time to settle in and kind of try and prove their worth. And if they're not, well, then they need sorting.
Fully agree with you, Councillor Staples. Just give them a bit of time. They're new to the job, and just let's see what they. And obviously, Phil, you are possibly still having. Are you still talking to them and having meetings with them? And you can update us.
I'm not personally in terms of because it's marriage for a property lease. However, I will be supporting our assets colleagues in terms of how we go forward on the leisure side, and find some solutions where we need to.
Councillor Danny.
It's just one thing, and I think we all agree about the same thing. As we know, I mean, Jeff Mulder is in arrears in over £300,000 a year. So these things, we need to know what they're going to do with it. I mean, the Princess Arena is already deteriorating. So what they're going to do with it? So it's our right, I think, because probably we're so passionate about the town. I think we need to know these things and where it's going and what's kind of, as I said before, what kind of contracts. And I do agree with you. You need probably 6 months to find your feet and start working on that. That's a normal thing. But at the moment, we need to know where we are standing with our contracts and with our, the people who are coming to improve the town. So we need to help them and push them forward. And as Councillor Gilbert say, we need to scrutinize sometimes these things. It's not that it's against anyone. However, we want it to work and become, as I say, create something better. That's all.
I think actually PRSA, not PRS, Jeff Mulder's evolving, isn't it? And again, I think you've got to give it time. I think it's very early days and just give it time. I'm conscious of the time. We've had 2 hours in the meeting. If everybody has finished comments and questions, and well, we've had 2 hours, haven't we?